play Germany in 1936, but you're a little bit lost on where to go. Well, don't worry, I've got your back, and together we will build a German Reich that will last 1,000 years or until 1945. Results may vary. I will try to walk you through how I build my Germany for single player on historical, and I will be using all the DLC available. You don't have to use all the DLC. The guide will diverge a little bit if you don't have certain DLCs, but nothing really breaks.
Shut up and take my money.
Focuses. What I like to do is start with Rhineland. Don't worry about the oppose Hitler path. You don't have this if you don't have Waking the Tiger. It's completely irrelevant. Just take the Rhineland. Then for research, we start with engineering. We take basic machine tools and we take construction. We have a slot open. Now, if you have Arms Against Tyranny, no, wait, By Blood Alone, that's the one. You have this airplane research screen. If you don't have By Blood Alone, you have the old airplanes research tree, and that's pretty much just small airframes, medium airframes, heavy airframes. So if you don't have this window, completely ignore what I'm about to do and instead research guns or research artillery. I, however, like to grab range improvements. With this, I can make my airplanes fly a little bit further, and I will be using Messerschmitt. Now, these military-industrial organizations all tie into the latest DLC, Arms Against Tyranny, but they don't change up the gameplay whatsoever. Nothing about those is completely going to change the gameplay, so don't worry about them. Now, the reason I grab the range improvements is, well, let's take these fighters, for instance. They got a decent range. Even the really shitty ones, they can cover Eastern Germany. But Eastern Germany isn't a very large air zone. Now, if we were to look at Russia, Transvolga, Central Russia, Arkhangelsk, these are much larger air zones and they will be much more difficult to cover. That's why I like to have a little bit more range on my fighters and possibly my bombers in the future. So in terms of construction, we want to start with a little bit of infrastructure. I start by maxing out the infrastructure in the Moselland, the Rhineland, followed up by filling those two provinces with civilian factories. Then I max out the infrastructure in Niederschlesien and Oberschlesien, and again, fill those completely with civilian factories. And lastly, I want to max out the infrastructure in Württemberg and Oberbayern, and again, fill those places with civilian factories. Avoid building infrastructure in Brandenburg, Hanover, Thüringen and Franken. Those places will get filled through a focus, but more on that later. Production. Germany starts off fairly strong with 28 military factories. What we're going to do is add one factory to support equipment, two factories to towed artillery. I'm going to take one factory away from the light tanks. Light tanks are not very good, but they're excellent until 1938, 1939. However, Germany has all the industry and industrial and research might it needs to never rely on light tanks, but since we're already making them, we'll keep making them. We have a few divisions using them, but just keep one factory on that. That should be enough. Then we're going to add production line of towed anti-air using Rheinmetall. Two factories should be enough. And then we're going to add one factory on civilian trains. I know, Germany has a lot of trains. In theory, it's not required, but I like to make a couple of trains. That leaves us with a few extra factories available, and all of those are going into infantry equipment. Future factories will go to filling out infantry equipment up to 15 factories. After that, we will be building a lot of basic small airframes and a lot of basic close support. So fighters and close air support. Basic mediums, I get rid of. I really don't like these. We have a navy in production. Now the submarines are pretty awful, but they're almost done. So I just finish them off and assign the maximum amount of dockyards to these so that there's a cascade effect. When the first one finishes, the factory or the dockyard goes to the second one, and eventually there will be more factories available or dockyards. We also will finish up the destroyers and then this Deutschland class heavy ship. It's almost done. Now, a lot of people say you don't use the ships, they're awful. I agree, the design isn't perfect. It's far from perfect. However, there's already been a significant investment in IC, and Germany's navy serves one purpose and one purpose alone, getting to the United Kingdom. And these ships will do that. They're not perfect for naval combat, but they will serve to bypass the Royal Navy. I will take 24 divisions of basic infantry. They are fairly basic, but they'll do. Then we have 1, 2, 3 tanks and a motorized. We'll split them off as well, leaving us with 2 divisions. One's a mountaineer, one is a cavalry unit. You know what? I like to take that cavalry unit, put it with the infantry, and then take one of the infantry units and put it with the mountaineers. We are going to send these 2 guys over to Ethiopia for fun and memes, and that cavalry unit will just convert to an infantry division because it doesn't really matter. The infantry we can put on the border with the French. The mountaineer and the infantry we will send over to Ethiopia in a bit. And then these 4 units we will keep in reserve around Berlin. I intend to use these for the Spanish Civil War. We start off with a trade agreement with Sweden for steel, but we don't need that trade agreement. This just follows the historical trade agreements Germany has. We don't need it right now, so we're going to cancel that. We have enough steel. As for rubber, we're going to buy a little bit of rubber from Siam so we can make those airplanes and trucks. And that is pretty much the start done. Now, let's talk to the Ethiopians. We are going to send them some volunteers. We will send them air volunteers along with mountaineers. Air divisions have arrived in Ethiopia. I now assign a general. If you assign the general before you send them, for some reason he's unavailable for 2 weeks. I don't know why, it just happens. Let's give these over to von Witzleben, and I park them up north here so he can get a little bit of experience in the mountains. We're really here just to get a little bit of army experience out of this. Yeah, that should slow Mussolini down a lot. One thing I forgot, and it's actually pretty important. We're going to train Cavalry Brigade. These are the smallest divisions we have. We are going to queue up about 31 of them. Make it 35 for a nice number on a high priority, and we are simply going to be spamming this button, the deploy button. Every time a division reaches 20% training, deploy it, deploy it, deploy it. We just want these divisions out in the field. We don't care that they don't have guns or artillery or any equipment. They don't even need horses. I just need warm bodies in the field. We just sent 2 volunteers to Ethiopia. That was our limit because they don't have a lot of provinces and we don't have a lot of troops. I also want to send volunteers to Spain, and we can send more volunteers to Spain if we have a larger army. The amount of volunteers we can send is based on our army size and the country size. For the case of Spain, they're a fairly large country, and the only limiting factor will be our army size. If we get our army size over 60, we will be able to send, I think, 4 divisions over to the nationalists to get more army experience, as well as some airplanes to get some much needed air experience. Experience is very important to get early on, and we're gonna add the future of our navy. Once these guys are all built, we will be adding destroyers. So the basic German destroyer is okay, but it's a bit on the expensive side. So what we're gonna do is design a new 1936 destroyer, add the cheapest light battery we can, the cheapest torpedo we can, and a decent engine. Use the military industrial organization Blumenvoss if you have the DLC. If you don't, it doesn't matter. And then just add those destroyers to the queue, and we'll add about 15 of those at the very tail end of our production. I like to deploy them with the high seas fleet so I don't have to micromanage that afterwards. So if you don't have the DLC Man the Guns, just build the ships that are in the queue and then build up a couple of extra destroyers on the tail end without having to design them. The Rhineland is done. Now, if we want to continue on to Anschluss, which used to be the way to go, to rush down here, we are somewhat limited by manpower in the field and equipment in the field. There are ways to cheese this still, but I don't think leaning into cheese for people trying to learn the game is all that interesting. Plus, do you really need it? I don't think so. So we're going to leave Austria alone for a little bit, leave them to do their focus, and instead we are going down 4-year plan, autarky, Hermann Göring Werke, KDF-Wagen. Now, 4-year plan takes 70 days and gives us 2 100% bonuses to industry. That's really good. However, it will take 79 days to finish our basic machine tools. What that means is the 100% bonus will be applied to this tech and this tech. Not exactly optimal because it's not as good. What I like to do is postpone 4-year plan by 1 focus, and I quickly grab a short focus, either naval rearmament for a couple of extra dockyards or the long focus of army innovations. I would recommend just quickly take naval rearmament. This gives us a couple of extra dockyards, which is not incredibly valuable, but it's decent and it doesn't take very long. Anyway, keep spamming out those darn horses. Political power, almost forgot. We have enough. So we are going to be hiring Martin Bormann, the silent workhorse, to get us more political power. Now we're going to hold on to the rest of that political power for other things in future. We have our range improvements, and the rest of this air tech is fairly ahead of time. Don't want the large airframes anyway. So we're going to look around where we can spend it. And what I like to do now is grab basic armor protection to start preparing for our tanks. We'll use either MAN, Henschel, or Daimler. So MIOs, not my strong suit. The 2 options here are MAN if you want to focus on breakthrough, or Daimler-Benz, which focuses very much on making more, slightly worse tanks, which I think is better. So we will be focusing on Daimler-Benz for that standardized production. Now, if you don't have the DLC that gives you tanks, tanks, which I believe is no step back. That's fine. Your research is going to look completely different. Instead of having to research every component of your tank, you just research the tank as a whole. In that case, keep an eye on whenever 1938 medium tanks become available to you, and just start researching them when it is looking like you will have them by 1938. We have our electronic mechanical engineering. We're going to follow up with mechanical computing so we can get more research speed in. Not a terrible idea to get our intelligence agency up. If you don't have the La Resistance DLC, you don't have an intelligence agency, that's fine. Just completely ignore it. Naval rearmament is done. Onwards to the 4-year plan. Building out the intelligence agency, what I like to grab is the cryptology department, 2 techs of radio encryption, the unfortunately named pills, and then army department, naval department, air department. What you can also grab is the localized training centers. This will allow you to recruit spies with certain nationalities, which is helpful, for instance, when spying in the Soviet Union, because the Soviets have a massive buff when it comes to detecting your spies. We're gonna grab a chief of the army. I want to get this early on because army experience and experience in general is just that important. I like to hire Franz Halder, more divisions in TAC, and daily army experience. The sooner you get him, the more valuable he becomes, because I need a lot of army experience, not just for our doctrines, but also for our spirits. He is very valuable. Basic machine tools is done. I'm now going to grab Dispersed Industry 1. Now, there's a lot of debate on the internet between concentrated or dispersed. In short, concentrated makes more things if you never change this, if you don't add a lot of factories to this, or if you don't change infantry equipment 1 or to infantry equipment 2, and then onwards. Essentially, if you make not a lot of changes, this is best. Or if you just want a whole lot of things built quickly in a short amount of time, concentrated is good. But if you have an economy that you're expecting will expand and will produce new things, I think dispersed is simply better, and almost always want to take dispersed. Now that our espionage agency has finished its localized training centers, we're going into our decisions, but we're looking at the map. You can see these buttons: recruit in Latvia, Lithuania. We're going to recruit in the Soviet Union. That gives us a Soviet spy. The reason that's important is he's a lot less likely to get caught in the Soviet Union, and everything he does in the Soviet Union will be that much better or that much more efficient. That spy, simply don't use him yet, just leave him at home. If you only have one spy and he gets caught, you can't send another spy to go get him out. So don't use that spy until you have your second spy. You get your second spy when you have unlocked 5 of these. Hjalmar Schacht. He will be available for a short time until we demand the Sudetenland. But while he's available, 1, he's really cheap, and 2, increases the construction speed of infrastructure and civilian factories. And guess what we're focusing all of our construction on? Exactly. We have our basic armor protection. We're now going back into industry, and we're going to use this 100% bonus here to get improved machine tools a little bit faster. Usually, in almost all circumstances actually, you want to focus on this branch in the production tree. All it does, or at least it says it does, is improve production efficiency cap. And that means this bar goes further to the right, giving you a higher maximum. Now that all the horses have been deployed, set the reinforcements to high priority and garrisons to high priority, and you can leave that there for the rest of the game. Spain has done the thing. Somewhere in July, Spain does the thing where it's, fights itself, and we're going to have a chat with the nationalists under Sanjurjo right now. Spoiler alert, he doesn't last long. We are going to send them volunteers. We can now send 4 volunteers because we have more than 60 divisions, and we send air volunteers. This will allow us to send 2 air wings in this case. The amount of air wings you can send scales, I believe, either off your army size or your air force size. I don't really know, but sometimes you can send 1 wing or 2 wings or 3 wings. Just keep an eye on it and send more air wings when you can. We'll send 1 wing of fighters and 1 wing of the tactical bombers. They have a nice amount of range, so we'll use those. All right, as you can tell, we can unlock traits in military industrial organizations. I'm not going to do this for each and every single one of these, but there's a common theme. Look for bonuses to production efficiency gain, production efficiency cap. Those are the things you want to aim for first. If you can make more stuff, you always win. You have an edge. And we're simply going to be doing a whole lot of fighting. You can micromanage this to really optimize it. I usually don't. I just have these guys fight, make sure that my airplanes are in the same region that the tanks are, and that usually is enough. We are mostly looking to get army experience out of this. And these divisions will get plenty of army experience. Speaking of, how is Ethiopia going? Well, Ethiopia's had better days, but Italy's still doing comically poorly. And we're going to hire the Professional Officer Corps. Gives us 5% increased experience gain. Always good. And cheaper land doctrines. I prefer this one. The sooner you get it also, the better it is. That 5% adds up over time. We can now also send an attaché to the Spanish. The reason we improved relations is because we need them to be over 20. We need them to have more than 20 relations with us, in addition to the extra cost of all this. So now we've sent them an attaché. We'll get parts of their experience, which is wonderful. We'll get 15% of all their military experience. We now have more than 50% war support, so our next political power pick will be war economy, the best economy. We've got our 5 unlocks. That's really all we want to spend early on, because all of these take a significant amount of civilian factories. We can get more later, but right now we're going to stop at 5. So these are the ones I chose. That gives us our second spy. With the second spy underway, we can take the first spy and put him in France. It doesn't really matter, but it does help that initial push. We have Dispersed 1. Let's grab Dispersed Industry 2. KDF-Wagen done. Extra research slot. And we have our extra research slot. So what we're going to do now is do that Anschluss. Austria has had some time to build things. It is high time we use those things for ourselves. We're going to take Anschluss, reassert Eastern claims, and then demand Sudetenland all the way down here to fate of Czechoslovakia. As for research, we're going to grab rubber processing. It's going to be very valuable. Spirit of the Academy, I like taking bold attack. It means that generals who level up are more likely to do more damage, to get a higher attack skill. I prefer the higher attack skill. Now, political loyalty is also useful if you're struggling with stability, but we're not. So I'm going to go with bold attack. And then Spirit of Division Command, I'm going to go with maneuver warfare. This depends highly on what doctrine you chose. Germany will naturally gravitate towards mobile warfare, and that unlocks maneuver warfare. Other good options are static warfare if you're pushed into a very defensive position, flexible organization if you like to be on the attack, want that extra speed to perform your breakthroughs, and then there's others that are exclusive to doctrines like superior firepower or grand battle plan, but they are beyond the scope of this video. We have our interwar artillery. Let's grab that oil processing. Oh great, Skorzeny got caught. So this is why you want 2 spies. When one gets caught, the other can do an operation, rescue captured operatives. If you only have the one spy, your spy can't get him out. So it's important that we get him out. We are making BF-109Ds. These are honestly terrible, and we want to make them a little bit better. Add fighter weapons, light machine guns, makes them a little bit more attacky, slightly less agile, slightly heavier. We have Anschluss Austria, because it's historical, they will always say yes. A lot of juicy factories out of Austria here. Next up, reassert Eastern claims. Got a bunch of fresh divisions as well, and we're going to do a little bit of memory. We got this unit here called Infanterie Division. It's the same as ours, just it doesn't have a hyphen. We're going to edit it, and we're going to remove the engineers. That gives us just a basic block of infantry. That's fine. Having made that change, we're also going to make another change. Let's go and grab 6 units out of the army guarding the Maginot and put them off to the side. Everybody else is going to be converted slightly. So we're going to take all of our other units and convert them to that new infantry division. That just means they no longer have artillery, they no longer have support equipment. That's fine. That means we can exercise them continuously. Japan declared war on China. That's another opportunity for us. So we're going to talk to China. We're going to send them volunteers, and we're going to send those 6 units. Ooh, we can even send 7. 6 will do. We're going to send those units we split off earlier along with air volunteers. Now you may be wondering, why do we want to help China? It's simple. Send over our air volunteers, send them over to the Beijing airport, and they will dominate the northern China air zone where all the fighting is taking place. That's pretty much the reason why we support China here. It is free experience, both free experience for our air force as well as free experience for our army. I'm going to hire Wilhelm Canaris. He gives us another spy. Basic medium tank chassis research. Let's grab improved armor protection while we're there, and we're going to design our first medium tank. It's not going to be wonderful, but it's going to be better than our light tanks. So I like to grab the 3-man turret, slap on the close support gun. We're going to replace this with medium armaments when we unlock them, but we need to go down the artillery tree. Again, if you don't have the No Step Back DLC, none of this is relevant, and you just want to make medium tank 1, medium tank 2, medium tank 3 as you go through the research. It's all very much simplified in that case. All right, let's add radios, and I do like to grab wet ammo storage because reliability is a pretty big deal. Get welded armor, and then Christie suspension. It's not the world's fastest tank, but we can get the engine up a little bit without dipping too much below 80% reliability. And then add secondary turrets like the heavy machine gun. And I also am a big fan of sloped armor. A lot of people say sloped armor is bad, you don't need that much armor. Yes, I know. I like to make this tank. I know this tank works. I'm sure there are better designs out there. This works. We're gonna put that Panzer III into production. After we filled out all of those airplanes, we're gonna make many basic medium tanks. We're starting to finish up those civilian factories. We're at 92, and when these finish, we'll definitely be at 100. This is where we switch things up. We're going to be building synthetic refineries wherever we have high infrastructure, and we're going to follow up with military factories wherever we have high infrastructure, and we're going to spam them in Franken, Thüringen, Hanover, and Brandenburg. That's where we're going to build our military factories. At 150 political power, we'll spend that on hiring Walter Funk, fate of Czechoslovakia. 3 options. The bottom one means you annex everything. Sounds tempting, don't do it. You can share it with Hungary. Again, sounds tempting, don't do it. Just set up Slovakia as a puppet state. You might be thinking, but I don't want Slovakia as a puppet state. I want that territory. The territory is pretty useless anyway, and the factories there you wouldn't be able to use because you would start at 0% compliance. The reason we take this option is because we get all of Czechia, and it starts at 50% compliance. Compliance is such a huge deal. That means we get less resistance, we have to use fewer garrisons, and we can use more of the local resources and industry. If any of the other options don't give compliance at all, it would start at 0. So this is just huge, and this is why you want to do this. We are now occupying some land, so we want to use a different garrison unit. That is this button here, and we're going to use the Schnelle Division. This is basically a unit we inherited from Austria. Once again, it's just 4 horses. This is fine for occupation. Just use that and ignore it. As for focuses, we're now going to take Reichsautobahn, and then Army Innovations and Treaty with the USSR. I am going to grab the first level of anti-tank. Now, anti-tank itself in single player is fairly worthless because of the way the AI uses, or rather doesn't use, tanks. But it does unlock the anti-tank cannon 1, which is a component for close air support. I do like using that, so that's why I'm doing the first research level of AT. Let's go grab these guys. These are armored trains. And there goes the Spanish Civil War. Got a nice amount of experience out of it. Tanks can come home and we can redesign them for future use. I wasn't paying attention to what happened here, and I should have reinforced Beijing. Once Beijing goes, the rest follows very quickly. It's okay though. We got pretty much all the air experience we could want out of it. We've almost finished our tree. Finished. We've definitely worked through our tree quite lovely. There we go. 200 political power, and we'll hire Heinz Guderian, the Blitzkrieg theorist. Now we also have all these units available. Let's start setting up some front lines. So 1 army in the Königsberg pocket up there, and their goal as such will be to push out towards Bialystok, Brest-Litovsk, like so. 1 army, of course, covering the Maginot. That gives us 3 armies for other stuff. So we'll take 1 of those armies and we'll cover the Netherlands with it. And the remaining 2 armies we can either individually assign to the long front line with Poland, or we can select the field marshal, select front line, hold shift while we draw it, and then draw a field marshal order like so. This will make the field marshal distribute all units evenly under 1 order instead of making a very messy series of smaller lines. So the idea is that the infantry will pin units in place while the armor does the heavy lifting. We got another 200 political power, so let's go ahead and hire Erwin Rommel, the armor genius, and our next 100 political power will be spent on von Rundstedt for army regrouping. Having just done army innovations, we also got some bonuses to doctrine, so we're gonna grab the next couple here. Delay is cheap, elastic defensive cheap, and then down here is a split. People are a little bit divided. Mobile infantry, good bonuses to your infantry in terms of organization, but I don't use infantry all that often as Germany. I prefer to go with Blitzkrieg. This gives you more breakthrough and a little bit more organization on tanks. I think that's more valuable because breakthrough is really good. Yes, you reach breakpoints with breakthrough. That is to say, you will automatically get so much breakthrough that getting more doesn't really matter. But more org on a unit that you're not using, I don't think is all that valuable. I prefer to get Blitzkrieg. That way I don't have to design my units with breakthrough in mind. I will get a lot of it, and I can spend more of my army experience designing tanks with more soft attack, more speed, that kind of stuff. We're going to make some changes to division. So basic infantry division. This is what the Germans start with. We are going to add support anti-air to the mix and leave this as is. This is perfect for your basic holding division. Could add a little bit of artillery to it, but that's like extra sprinkles on top. We can do that later if it turns out we have plenty of artillery. For now, what we want is this. Just support engineers, support artillery, and support anti-air, and then 9 of these basic infantry. We're not going to make that template change just yet. We have a little bit of time. And then we're going into our Panzerdivision. Now, this is terrible. This is absolutely worthless, so we'll change it. We are going to add armor, medium tanks. We're going to replace all the light tanks with medium tanks, and then fill out the rest of that row with more medium tanks. This brings us up to 20 combat width. Still not what we want. Let's add a couple of motorized to it. 24 combat width. It's getting there. Let's add another motorized to it. Okay, so we're 26. Let's add another motorized. We're 28. And we'll add another tank to the mix. Another medium tank. So this is a 30 width tank division. We have almost enough tanks to make that change. We'll also make them elite. This is my preferred tank division. I would also add on the logistics companies and support anti-air. There we go. That will make for a very powerful division. There are some more changes you could make, but for the early stages of the war, this is very good. More political power to spend. Let's hire von Rundstedt. That should fill out military cabinet. Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact done. Now, Danziger War. This is where the fun begins. In about 70 days, we go to war with the Allies. A little bit behind schedule, but anyone really going to complain about 30 days? We're now going to take all of those infantry divisions that have been training, and we're going to convert them over to our initial infantry template that we changed earlier. Good. Everybody's going to switch over. Moscow signs the pact. Fantastic. We're going to take Paul Hauser. He's not under the field marshal. We're going to give him a different field marshal, someone with a little more attack, a little more spirit in him, and I prefer to take von Kluge or Model. Von Kluge has the armor officer, so it's a nice match. We're also going to give him organization first, so he has more reinforce rates. As for this guy, von Rundstedt, he's in charge of our infantry. I like to give him charismatic. His infantry on the defensive just needs to regain orc quickly, so I like the initial extra boost to this division recovery rate. We got improved artillery. Let's go and grab these bonuses to our infantry as well. Infantry equipment. Yeah, we're going to be like 30-ish days late to the war. Still not bad. Poland refuses German ultimatum. We'll slow the game down. As for focuses, we're now going to do Großraumwirtschaft, align Romania, align Hungary, and integrate war economies. That will turn Hungary and Romania into our puppets. None of these units are exercising. The Air Force is in position. All of the armies are also in position. Poland refuses to see Danzig as they do on historical, and we now declare war. The UK has guaranteed Poland. The UK will then join the war, and Poland will join the Allies. That's okay. That's perfectly fine. We positioned these tanks here, and we're going to use these tanks to barrel through the least defended parts of Poland. These are all plains, and we can punch through fairly quickly. These units here will take Danzig. These units here will pin these divisions in place. These units here will pin those divisions, and you pin that division. And what I mean by pinning is attack a unit, even though you don't expect to win. As long as that unit's in combat, it can't move to a different tile, so that is just one way of delaying an enemy from moving into a different position. As for the main battle line, you can very easily allow this guy to run a battle plan. It's never optimal to do this, and it's absolutely not optimal to do this with infantry, but Poland is weak enough, and we are more than powerful enough to allow for it. So goodbye, Poland. Our goal with the tanks will be to link up with the Königsberg pockets to cut off the western defenses of Poland. Yeah, Poland joined the Allies as expected. So we want to cut off the western defenders of Poland. We want to take Warsaw, and we just want to overrun this country before they have any chance of mustering a solid defense, and that is the entire west already cut off. Easy peasy, lemon squeezy. And now we just focus on taking victory points, using the speed of the armor to really drive into places before defenders can arrive. This is why I like fast tanks. They can just get everywhere quickly. I just made a mistake, so we're not going to do Großraumwirtschaft. I forgot about the other war focuses. So our next focus is going to be around the Maginot. 28 days, we will have war goals on the Netherlands and Belgium, and Poland will definitely be defeated by that point. Do not call anyone into this war. Italy is the detriment. Italy is terrible, and Slovakia doesn't have any troops. They're pointless. So do not call anyone into this war. They won't help you. You won't need their help anyway. So simply keep snaking towards victory points. Keep killing the Poles wherever you find them. They should die relatively easily. Krakow needs to fall. Tarnów is next. Polish army really not strong enough to stop you. Look for places that have a lot of victory points in them. I know that Krakow has like 20. Warsaw Territorial has 25, Danzig has a lot, Gdynia has a lot, so we'll just overwhelm Poland with overwhelming force. And there goes Poland. We are going to give the Netherlands a very, very bad day, and we're going to bring over the rest of these troops as well. We're going to put one army on Luxembourg, well, half of that army on Luxembourg, the other half on Belgium, so there. And the remainder of those troops have a series of other goals. So one army will split off towards Denmark. That leaves us with one more army here. Friedrich Schulz will start a naval invasion, or will plan a naval invasion towards Norway. Put him in the port beneath Hamburg here, and we'll plan to land around Kristiansand and Stavanger. A little trick when planning a naval invasion is to use fewer units spread out over multiple orders. So the maximum amount of units you can use for a naval invasion with the basic tech is 10. So you can either use 10 units in a single naval invasion order, and that will then take 7 days. That will take 70 days. Or you can use 10 orders using 1 unit each, and then each individual order takes 7 days to plan, and it achieves the same thing just way faster. I just tend to use 2 divisions per order, so it takes 14 days to plan, and is way faster to get anything done with. Anyway, while that planning is going on, let's keep the Navy nice and tight in our port for now. As for research, I'm gonna grab the rocket artillery here. I like a little bit of extra soft attack. Doctrines, keep investing in doctrines, of course. We're gonna shift all of the air over to the Low Countries, the Benelux region. More tanks are coming online. Let's add them to the main tank army. We're about to finish around Maginot. As you'll see, I have not attacked France at all. I'm just sitting here preventing the French from walking into my territory. You don't want to push through the province of Alsace-Lorraine. This is where the Maginot Line is, the historical fort line protecting France from any future German attack. At least that was their idea. It's level 10 forts. Don't go through there. You can, but just don't. It's way easier to just go through Belgium and Netherlands. Now what we're gonna do is do around Maginot. This gives us a war goal on Belgium, the Netherlands, and Luxembourg. And instead of declaring war on all of them at the same time, what we're gonna do is declare war on the Netherlands first. We're gonna defeat these guys in batches of 1. So we declare war on just the Netherlands. No allies are gonna come in. We are going to just walk through there. They're very easy to defeat. The tanks will punch through, hit Utrecht, Amsterdam, The Hague, and Rotterdam. Our focus will now be Operation Vesseübung for another 28 days. So we're simply going to sweep the Dutch army aside, walk into their tiles, and quickly overrun them. They're really weak. There's nothing to worry about here. Once Rotterdam falls, there the Netherlands go. What we're going to do now, and this is where a lot of people go wrong. A lot of people declare war on the Netherlands, Belgium, and Luxembourg at the same time and try to push through all of that at once. The Netherlands falls relatively easily, as you can see, but your border with Belgium is very, very narrow, and they can stack a lot of troops there. You will defeat those troops, but in that time, France and the UK will have had time to funnel additional units in. What I've done is defeat the Netherlands. That opens up the northern section of the Belgian border, where they weren't looking because there was a friendly nation there just now. There are no troops in Belgium from the Allies, and the Belgian army's out of position. The Allied army is nowhere to be seen, and they have a massive unprotected northern border. I'm now going to quickly reposition my troops towards that northern border, wait for the units to arrive. Tanks are going to arrive quickly, and now I'm going to declare war without calling anyone in. Yes, they're going to bring in the Allies, but they are now overstretched, overcommitted, and they cannot hold on their own. We can also declare war on Luxembourg. They really don't matter. Oh, fun fact, this is Pigeon, another Hoi4 YouTuber who helped me make a mod for this game that allows me to set, I'll quickly show you. He made this mod for me that allows me to use my channel members as division names. So now all of these divisions can be named after channel members automatically instead of me having to manually type it. So every time people sign up to my channel, I add their name to a list, and from that list I can then draw division names, usually for my elite units. So once again, thank you to the channel members for your massive support, and thank you Pigeon for running Luxembourg. But I'm sorry, I have to declare war on you. So we're gonna take out Luxembourg next. All right, Belgium and Luxembourg joined the Allies, but they're all way out of position and out of time. So we're gonna quickly run through the north of Belgium, head into Lille and towards Calais. So the tanks will angle along the north there, and the infantry keep attacking. You're gonna get this event if you've done the Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact. Germany and Russia, or Soviet Union, agreed to split Poland. You own all of Poland. Now, the Soviets want their part. If you do the bottom option, you're gonna get declared war on by the Soviets pretty much instantly. Top option, a fair split of Poland, which is fine. And we're overrunning the Belgians like it's nothing. They should capitulate soon. We're also running along the northern coast of France. We're gonna keep our armor concentrated along there, and the goal will be to push towards Paris. France has a very bad negative modifier called disjointed government. It means they surrender 50% faster than anyone else. To get the French to surrender, all you need is the victory points in Nord-Pas-de-Calais, Le Havre, Rouen, Dieppe, Amiens, Paris, and maybe Reims. So basically this section of France is all you need to get them to capitulate. And that is why going through Belgium is such an important thing to do quickly. If you cut through northern Belgium quickly before they're able to defend themselves, you can cut through France quickly because of, well, everybody being out of position and in massive disarray. You can see there's virtually no divisions here. Everybody is still here. They're trying to redeploy. They're trying to get to Belgium and to France, but they're not going to get there in time. There goes Belgium, and with their superiority and our armor, we'll be in Paris in no time. There we go, we're already in Paris. Let's work our way towards Reims, Dieppe, and Rouen, and the French should be giving up soon. And there goes the French. Triumph in France. I like establishing Vichy France because I don't want to worry about southern France. There we go. And we've taken out everybody on the continent. Now, for some easy and quick mopping up, let's use the tanks to kill anyone who's still in the area. Let's clear all that up, and we can start waiting. 16 days to Wesseübung, and then we start our invasion of the UK. One thing you might want to do is go into the English channel and turn off this here. If you have manned the guns, at least. If you don't, there's nothing you can do about it. But if you look at the supply map, the game is trying to ship supply from Kiel to the ports down here because they're technically not connected. Since the railway is broken, it will take 10 days to fix. Really annoying because it funnels a bunch of your convoys through the channel. And the channel is where the UK tends to put a lot of boats. Anyway, we'll use the armor here, clean up this last little holdout of, are these Dutch? Yeah, of the Dutch in Brest. We have a lot of leftover divisions now. I'm just going to put them on area guard. So that is this button here, area defense. Turn everything off except guard naval bases. The reason I do that is because sometimes the UK launches naval invasions, and while it's certainly not a problem to defeat those, it's a bit tedious. Wesseübung, we're going to declare war on Denmark, and we're going to declare war on Norway. Hurrah! The armies can march. We'll launch our naval invasions. They're not active yet because we don't have naval superiority. We're going to take our surface fleet, hit naval invasion support, and select the northern North Sea, eastern North Sea. The UK is programmed not to really put ships here, so you'll always succeed. Yay, Kiesling can take over. Fine. So that's Kiesling's stupid coup. And for the Danes, again, we can just annex them if we want to, or turn them into some sort of puppet. Might as well. Hurrah! Now they're the German protectorate of Denmark. Ship those troops over to Oslo through there, and the naval invasion is still going to try to take Stavanger and Kristiansand. As for focuses, reintegrate Luxembourg and Alsace-Lorraine. Once the naval invasion has done its thing, we're gonna hit the UK. The downside here is that Oslo, or the Norwegian Kiesling boys, are independent, and they join our faction, and then they draw Italy and any other faction members in. Bit annoying. Don't have to use them. You can just tell them to piss off. Transit rights in Sweden. Always keep pressing Sweden's buttons. You're more than powerful enough to get them to see reason. Political power is also up. We could use a little bit of extra manpower. We're going to go up to extensive conscription because we're going to be raising another full army group of 120 divisions to deal with the Soviets. Not because they're that powerful, but simply because it's a very broad front. Alright, our naval invasion has been planned, and now we gotta prepare to hit the UK. So we'll do naval invasion support Eastern North Sea and the North Sea. It seems that the UK has redeployed its fleet somehow, because there's nothing there. There is only friendly supremacy here. Yeah, the UK sometimes does this. And the UK doesn't really have a lot of troops at home, so it's very unlikely that they'll be able to defend themselves. So we'll move to take Hull and also move troops that land here towards Liverpool so we can cut the UK in half. Got our better engines for the airplanes. Let's get the infantry equipment. And we've taken Hull. Should do any second now. Right, we have Hull. That means we have a port. That means we can ship more units in. Send the entire army. Send everybody. And I would also send this armor across straight into Hull. Yeah, despite their resistance, there's really nothing they can do. To defeat the UK, all you need is everything south of the Liverpool and Hull line, and then Carlisle, Dumfries, Newcastle, a couple of the northern victory points. But once you get here, it's basically over. UK does not stand a chance. Meanwhile, Norway's pretty much dead as well. There we go. We have defeated the Allies. Easy peasy lemon squeezy. Right. As for the peace deal, we have the overwhelming majority of everything, and we're just gonna make this clean. We're gonna take all of our stuff from Poland. Simply gonna annex everything in the Netherlands, Belgium, Luxembourg, all of Poland. As far as the UK's puppets are concerned, you don't have to annex them. I usually don't. I tend to just puppet those. And then I tend to puppet the UK as well because I don't want to deal with occupying all of that, really. We're also going to take the entire navy, and we're going to take resource rights and war reparations. This is a feature from By Blood Alone, so if you don't have these options in your peace deal, that's okay. Right, after that peace deal, we gave Norway back to Norway, we puppeted the UK, we took all of France and all of the continental holdings we could. We created a couple of puppets across the seas, but none of them really matter all that much. So we're simply going to get ready for the next person to have a very bad day. That is Stalin. We're going to build up a second army group, and we're going to kick his ass. Having stolen the UK's massive fleet, might want to organize it into our own little death stack here. We have our improved small airframe. We're going to use that to build some better fighters. So we'll simply get all of these slots filled with heavy machine guns. We'll pick engine 3s, the best engine we can fit, and we'll slap in some of these self-sealing fuel tanks. This is gonna be a pretty good fighter. Maybe we can also add some extra fuel tanks for a little bit of extra range for these guys. It's gonna be helpful in Russia. Alsace-Lorraine reintegrated. Now we're going to go down Großraumwirtschaft, align Hungary, align Romania, integrate the war economies. Let's go get some of these Sonderkraftfahrzeugs. I don't think we'll be able to build all that many, but mechanized is cool. Construction continues as expected. We no longer need to focus on military factories or civilian factories. In fact, we have more military factories than I know what to do with right now. Simply use them to build more casks, build more fighters, build more tanks, build more anything you want. One thing you might want to make sure is to go to all of these hubs here and make sure they're fully upgraded, so that way they can have high-level railways leading to them and supply won't be as much of an issue. Speaking of supply, I may not have explained this properly when I was just playing that little war here. Click this button. For the love of God, click this motorization priority. In its most basic form, it's a horse. Click it once, it's 2 trucks. Click it again, it's 3 trucks. What that does is activate the supply hubs within range of the units under the command of that field marshal, and it tells them to motorize. And what that means is the range on these supply hubs increases. It's not very complicated, but in short, every hub has a certain range associated with it. And as you click the button to motorize it, that range expands. As a result, you can cover more ground more easily. As a downside, you need a lot of trucks to make up for that. We have plenty of trucks, so that's no problem. Spies, we're going to dump all of our spies in the Soviet Union, and we're going to build a spy network. The goal here will be to get our spy network up to 50%, and then we're going to continuously make collaboration governments in the Soviet Union, because I don't want to walk all the way to Tyumen to capitulate them. They've just researched our total rocket artillery. Put them into production as well. There we go. Legionary Romania has just appeared, so they've no longer democratic. They've flipped fascist. This is the point where they'll be willing to join our faction. Bada bing, bada boom. That means aligned Romania is invalidated and bypassed, so we now integrate the war economies, turn those two into puppets. At this point, you're going to get a message. The Soviet Union is justifying against us. Don't panic. The Soviet Union has a focus that lets them demand Bessarabia and southern Bessarabia, as well as Bukovina. Don't panic. It's just an event that Romania gets, and Romania is simply going to hand over the land. War economies are integrated. Now, Hungary and Romania should accept on historical, and they are both our lovely puppets now. Hurrah! At this point, doesn't really matter what we do. At this point, all we're waiting for is to get our collaboration governments in, at least one collaboration government in on the Soviet Union before we go any further. While we wait for that to happen, we can grab a bunch of bonuses here. We could start bullying the... Who are these people again? again, the Yugoslavs using the focus tree here, so demand Slovenia all the way down. You can improve the national spirit here if you want to, because you've won the World War II. You can also form the Reichskommissariat. I like to do this one. This allows me to make extra puppets out of our conquered territory. And then when it looks like we're about to finish or close to finishing our first collaboration government, we'll hit Anti-Comintern Pact and war with the USSR. Spy network has reached 50%, so we're going to start our collaboration governance. What we're going to do is take one spy, put him on quiet intel network wherever. That will maintain the spy network at the current strength, in this case 51%. The other spies will then no longer have a job because you cannot build a spy network and maintain a quiet network. The reason we want the quiet network is because this can simply keep the network there. It will count towards the required percentage to do missions, but the spy is very, very, very difficult to be caught. So this is good for maintaining what you have and being able to just run missions continuously. And we are going to prepare collaboration government continuously with the remaining 2 spies. Simply commence when ready and automatically repeat and prepare. We're still waiting for a few more units to be deployed. When they're out there we go. We have 2 full army groups ready to charge into the Soviet Union. They won't know what hit them. Hurrah! And this is something new from Arms Against Tyranny. Finland, after having lost the first war with the Soviet Union, is very much on board with the fact that the Soviet Union has to go. And for this, they want to sign an agreement where they will join the war against the Soviets should we start it, and their goal will be to reclaim their stuff. I am very much on board with that. In preparation, we'll also get some airplanes out. We have been building many airplanes. There we go. War with the USSR. In terms of focuses, nothing matters. At this point, you can do whatever you want. You want to do Operation Tannenbaum, annex Switzerland? Be my guest. You want to do Fate of Yugoslavia and carve up Yugoslavia? Be my guest. None of the focuses matter at this point. I'm going to sign a German-Swedish trade agreement, though. We have our war goal on the Soviets. We can cancel the non-aggression pact because enough time has passed and our army is more powerful, and we can simply declare war. We're not going to call any of our allies in. We don't want our allies. Finland will automatically join because they will start the continuation war, and we will systematically now dismantle the Red Army using encirclements. What I do is use armor in concentrated pushes in area that is flat, like plains. Use sickle cuts, carving from one section of my line towards another portion of my front, or against a neutral border, or against the sea zones. And what I do, and this may be easier if I just show you, is cut through using my air power, my armor, just my superior units, and try to overwhelm Soviet defenders and force portions of their army to be cut off from the rest. Those army units that are cut off, we can then destroy at our leisure, and a unit that's destroyed is much more difficult to replace than a unit that just takes damage. So like this, we use the speed, armor, and soft attack of our tanks to push further and further into the Soviet Union. Now, March is a bit of an annoying month. There is still a lot of snow, deep snow and snowing. Not ideal for an offensive, but the tanks don't care. Legitimately, the tanks do not care all that much, and we can simply keep driving. Now, depending on how confident you are in these maneuvers, we either make small cuts towards the border of Hungary and Romania here, and then systematically dismantle small portions of the Red Army. I'm feeling a little bit more ambitious, and I'm going to try for a push towards Vinnytsia, then down to Balta, and then down to Mykolaiv to essentially cut off the entire south. We'll launch a pinning attack on this tile so they don't reinforce Odessa in time. There we go. Now, this entire southern section of the Soviet line is encircled. When we defeat units that are encircled, they cannot retreat, and they will instead eventually be destroyed once no more territory is left that the enemy can occupy. So we will now tighten the noose and proceed to close the pocket, and all these divisions here will not be able to retreat. They will simply be destroyed, and that is how we want to deal with the Red Army. Systematically destroy it so there is not enough divisions left to stop us from walking to those hard to reach places like Kubyshev, like Kazan, like Stalingrad. We don't want to push the immense red line back. We want to take it apart bit by bit. This is going to be a good amount of initial kills. Even that little pocket's like 15 divisions. Don't know how many divisions it was, but it was like 40,000 manpower, 18,000 manpower, several thousands of manpower. The war has been on for, what, a couple of weeks, and we've already killed 160,000 Russians. And with that, we finished up the first of our many pockets to come. How many Soviets did we eliminate? 760,000 Soviets in our first hit alone. Next is going to be something up north, I think, so we can reinforce the Finns. We'll probably go somewhere through here and make a sickle cut towards Riga to cut off Courland and destroy the units there, and then keep driving for Pskov and Narva up there so we can try to link up with Finland. And we made it to Riga. That means we have supply up there. Quickly divert the tanks to clear out Courland before they ship their units out via the ports they still have. That will be very unfortunate. Let's quickly mop that up. Make sure the infantry is constantly redeploying using Control B to quickly shift them around. I'm going to extend the front up north here by pushing along the coastline and trying to take the supply hub of Pskov and Narva. That will give us the jumping off point to take Leningrad next, because it looks like Finland might need some help. After that, we're going to see what we can do. I'm thinking we split our armor in half. Half around Kaunas, half around Brest-Litovsk, and then make a pincer move with the two forces to meet somewhere around Baranovich. I love these fancy maneuvers, even if they're not really required to win. Using them just means that you can get so many kills at a very, very low cost to your own army, and the AI doesn't know how to handle it. And we're on the outskirts of Leningrad. The city itself usually has some defenders in it, but the easiest way around that is to take the plains tiles around the city to be able to attack it from more sides. If you attack a single tile from multiple sides, you open up more and more of the combat with, getting more and more of your units in, reducing the defender's advantage, and you'll then be able to leverage your quality units more. Front is looking a little stretchy, so what I'm going to do is take the supply hub here at Volkov. After that, we're gonna try cutting up more of the army. So it looks like a massive bulge down the center. So if I move half of my army to the south, half of my armor towards Vinnytsia, I'll move the other half of my army either towards Daugavpils, or if I'm very ambitious, towards Pskov, and then we'll try to meet in the middle around Gomel. That's gonna be ridiculously ambitious, but you will see, with medium tanks that have a little bit of speed, anything is possible. Carefully pushing along the railway lines through the plains, making maximum advantage of the combat potential of these tanks. They're fast, they're well armored, they have good amounts of soft attack. The AI just can't catch them. The infantry cannot redeploy quickly enough to catch the tanks, and we'll do the same around here. Now, considering the size of this, it's not a terrible idea to make sure the infantry helps out a little, so we'll get the field marshal to assist. Now, with such a massive gap in the lines and the infantry already cleaning up the pocket, it will be a waste to just leave our tanks here to clean up. There's a massive gap down the center near Gomel, and we're gonna push towards Moscow. Just make a big land grab early on before they're able to redeploy a lot of units to stop us. Just go ham. And that is the last of the big central pocket here. Let's see what that is when they all die. They're already up to 2.2 million casualties, and the war's been going on for what, a couple of months? And that is the fall of Moscow, August 41. Actually not doing too bad. And for Führer Directive 21, I just need Stalingrad. It's a bit of a drive, but I think we can make it with the armor if we're ambitious. The armor has taken Rostov. Half of them will constrict the circle and push towards Crimea, and the other half will push towards Stalingrad. I doubt the Soviets have much to get in my way. They have at most 259 divisions, so at most they have the same amount of divisions we have. It is extremely likely that they have significantly fewer units than that, though. Yeah, we're just casually cruising our way towards Stalingrad already. It is a major victory point, and it has a supply hub in it, so I would assume it to be guarded. It's not, though, so we've just taken Stalingrad and completed Führer Directive 21. Well, that just means we will have Unternehmen Barbarossa for a significantly longer time then. While we prepare for the next push, let's create another nice encirclement. We'll go and put half our army around Moscow, push towards Kalinin, past Kalinin, and the other half of the armor up here near Volkov, and we'll do the same sickle cut to try and cut off this bulge of the red line, or the Soviet lines, whatever you want to call them. They're all gonna die either way. And so far, we've taken less than 200,000 casualties in exchange for 3.2 million dead Soviets. I'd say those numbers are satisfactory. Just like that, once we get through the main front line, there's just nothing left. The Soviet army is, well, it might as well not exist at this point. They don't have the men to effectively resist us. They can still fill the front line, but they cannot effectively fight. Yeah, I think the Soviets are dead when our next collaboration government finishes, which is in 70 days. They are up to 3.5 million casualties. Considering we occupy everything we need to click this button, why don't we proclaim the Greater German Reich? It does nothing for us except give us a slightly different color, a different name, and it renames Berlin to Germania. But I think that's a pretty sweet looking Greater German Reich. And in 5 days, the Soviet Union will die. Let's quickly check this out. 4 million casualties in less than a year. Finland still stands. We've taken less than 250,000 casualties ourselves. This has been a very successful Operation Barbarossa. Get barbed, Stalin. There we go. Peace deal itself, pretty much just do what you want to. I like to take their fleet and then just annex all of it. Except for maybe, you know, because I like Finland, I tend to give them their cores back. And I was just about to say, and there we go. That concludes the big war. Japan instantly declared war on us because they want Malaysia. So I'll quickly explain what happened. Japan gets war goals on all of Southeast Asia. When we puppet things in Southeast Asia or take the land for ourselves, the focus tree for Japan doesn't change. They still want that specific land. The game doesn't take into account that you are now friendly nations occupying that stuff, and Japan is more than willing or capable of trading with us. So Japan is dead set on attacking whoever holds those territories. In this case, us. So they declared war on us. It's no big deal. I can sail my fleet over there and crush them in just about as long as it takes to get my fleet there. It's just a little tedious. So to crush Japan, just sail the entire fleet over to Vladivostok, assuming we can, you know, hold on for that long. But that's really all there is to it. If you want to defeat Japan, sail all those ships over to Vladivostok or whatever port you're still holding in the area. The armies that you had pushing into the Soviet Union, railroad them towards the Japanese holdings on the mainland. Send your armor in if you really want to. In terms of construction, you really want to be building up this Trans-Siberian Railway now to allow supply to flow into the area. That way you'll be easily crushing Japan there. With Japan crushed, you can then turn your attention to the United States. You control Canada as a puppet, so it's just a matter of building up Canada's supply network, ferrying your armies across, and declaring war whenever you want to. We're not going to do that. I'd say we already have a pretty sweet Greater German Reich, and I think this is a good place to call the video. I hope you guys found this guide at least somewhat helpful. I hope you found it entertaining, and I hope you learned something. Anyway, that was enough for me, and I hope to see you guys in the next video. Goodbye.